Hello again, and thank you for joining me for Scots United, where I and my team of Scots, who are also me, bring you the latest in movies, television, and pop culture. And today, on today's episode, it's podcast edition. Yes, we're going to talk about some great podcasts that I love, and hopefully encourage you to find some for yourself. Now, maybe you're new to podcasts. Maybe you haven't really done that deep dive yet, and I wish you would. However, I do say this with caveats because I will also be honest. The reason I don't talk about music much on this show is that I don't really follow popular music hardly anymore. I don't even listen to music as much anymore because I listen to so many podcasts. When I am going for a run, podcast. When I am walking Margo, podcast, who, side note, is still mobilizing her dog army for the upcoming revolution, I guess. She sent me some cryptic messages. She might be back. I can't say. When I'm driving, podcasts. So there's just so many that I love and so many to keep up with. Now, you may not have dabbled, or maybe you have. There are so many, so hopefully I'm going to give you some to check out or some directions to go. And on that note, let's go to Scott and talk about one of the first podcasts that got him going on this interesting journey. I actually got into podcasts originally because of comic books. I was at my aunt's house. They had Entertainment Weekly laying there. I flipped through it, and it had an article like 10 best new podcasts to check out, and one of them was Rachel and Miles Explain the X-Men. It's X-Plain. Because it's still around. It's done over 200 episodes now. I caught up to what I hadn't already listened to, and I've listened to everything since. They're great, they're interesting, they're smart, they're funny, and now that I've been with them this long, now their podcast essentially is caught up to where my collection started when I started it in 92 or 90 or whatever it was, when I was around 12 or 11. So now I get to relive my kind of pastime through them. It's even better. And yeah, certainly comics may not be your thing. X-Men, superheroes may not be your thing. But what is your thing? Because, Jesus, there are so many podcasts now, and so many that have already happened and finished, that if you loved a TV show or you love to knit or crochet or you love hockey, I guarantee there are podcasts on each of those, and you probably have a variety in each of those categories that you could probably find the host and the vibe that you like best as well. Speaking of revisiting things that you love from the past. Again, there's so many podcasts devoted to old TV shows, going episode by episode. If you really want that deep dive, there is a podcast for you. I am a big fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and also Angel for Now and Forever, because they're great. Buffering the Vampire Slayer is the podcast that I got into. Two lesbians, sort of going back through it, breaking down the patriarchal biases and looking at it through a queer lens and having a great time with it. Now, maybe you want a podcast to help you get more tuned in to current events, politics, what's going on in the world. Check out NPR. NPR has a great variety of podcasts, my favorite being Fresh Air. Terry Gross is one of the best interviewers in the business by far, has been for decades. And if you subscribe to Fresh Air, you're going to get a variety. You're going to get journalists talking about politics and authors. You're going to get musicians. You're going to get actors, directors, people creating your favorite movies, TV shows. You're going to get people talking about science and a whole range of topics. It'll be 5, one for each day of the week, and then Saturday they do sort of a composite of the highlights of the best moments of the week. So you really can't go wrong with Fresh Air. And if you like politics and current events with a dose of humor, check out Throwing Shade. Erin Gibson, she's a feminist. Brian Safi, he's a homosexual. They are funny. They are a great team, a great comedy team combo. But they do bring up an issue every week about something going on in sort of women's news and having to do with women that is impactful about women, whether it's abortion rights, whether it's healthcare, whether it's judges and whatever it may, all the things that it could be. And then Brian will talk about some kind of issue or current event that's impacting the gay community. They're super funny. They have characters. It's hilarious and informative, and it's a nice balance if you don't want just the news or just your current events or just politics. If you're a fan of movies, I would recommend You Must Remember This. Karina Longworth is amazing. she has gone back and gone a huge deep dive into classic films, the Red Scare, the Manson murders. There's a really interesting comparison she did between Gene Seberg and Jane Fonda and their life and work. She's currently on hiatus, but go back to the back catalog. It is worth it. It is great. You will learn so much. There's a whole section on, like an 8-part series on Joan Crawford. That's what got me hooked. She has a whole series called Dead Blondes about the famous dead blondes in the history of Hollywood. And there's more. Now, if you like your movies with a dose of humor, I would recommend How Did This Get Made? It has 3 great comedians who are its hosts, Paul Scheer, Jason Mantzoukas, and June Diane Raphael, who's married to Paul Scheer. They look at crappy movies, generally from the last 3 decades or so, 4 decades. They don't do anything super old. It's more just sort of weird independence, odd little things, stuff that never got really released, and also some more recent stuff that's just bad. And it's all about how did this get made? How did something so convoluted or stupid or silly or whatever it may be get made, get funding? And they look at a whole, they go through it. They have another guest who's another comedian. They talk about people that gave it 5-star ratings and why did they do that. They usually have a live audience. It's a lot of fun. Another funny one is Womp It Up. Jessica St. Clair and Lennon Parham are best friends. They were on that show Playing House on USA, and now they have, or they already have had for several years, a podcast called Womp It Up. Jessica plays Marissa Wampler, this sort of 19-ish probably student who keeps repeating her senior year, who has a lot of problems, who loves DiGiorno pizza, and she's mentored by Charlotte Shardog Listler, who is played by Lennon Parham, who is a former sniper and has a cat army that she's raised. They live in Marina Del Rey, California. They are based out of Marina Del Rey High School. Their guests are always usually it might be someone like Marissa's dad, played by another comedian, or it might be some other teacher at the school, or someone that knows them. It's sort of bonkers and silly and hilarious and great and also heartfelt, and it's one of my favorites. That's it for this week. I hope you have some great ideas about some podcasts that might work for you, might resonate with you, and if not, I hope you go searching for one that does, one that lights up your life and brings you some joy. And we'll see you again next week. Margo will be back, according to the smoke signals. And I'll see you then.